Tears in the copper rain. Rain fell on Aurelia Station in long copper threads. It fell from condensation towers 3 kilometers above the streets, carrying rust, industrial salts, atmospheric scrubber residue, and traces of biological matter from 16 species. The station authorities insisted it was safe. The station authorities lived above the rain. Down in the 9th tier, citizens wore broad hats, polymer coats, or cheapskin sealant. Water hissed from food stalls. Neon signs fractured across puddles. Matter beam advertisements flickered on wet walls, promising immediate delivery, immediate travel, immediate beauty, immediate happiness. Nothing on Aurelia Station was immediate except death. Inspector Jonah Vance stood beneath the awning of a noodle shop and watched a dead man refuse to look dead. The body lay on its back in the alley, one hand curled near its chest. Male. Human appearance. Approximately 35 years old. Black hair. Gray eyes. No identification. There was a hole through his sternum large enough to see the pavement beneath him. But the blood around the wound was wrong. Too dark. Too thick. And threaded with silver. Dr. Lira Senn knelt beside the body. She was Asteri, though she wore none of the elegant ceremonial colors favored by her people. Her coat was utilitarian black. Her silver-tinted skin reflected the alley lights. One gloved hand rested against the dead man's throat. No pulse, Jonah said. I am aware. You've been checking for a while. I am checking for residual cognition. Jonah looked down at her. People usually stop thinking after somebody removes most of their heart. Humans do. The rain ticked against the awning. Jonah's face remained still. Lira slowly looked up. He isn't human, she said. Looks human. That is not the same thing. Jonah crouched. He was tall, broad through the shoulders, and carried the dense, unhurried posture common among people raised in Earth-normal gravity. Aurelia Station's public safety office required him to wear a restraint harness when working in high-density alien districts. He had removed it before entering the alley. The dead man's left eye remained open. Jonah leaned closer. Its pupil contracted. He froze. Lira. I saw it. The corpse's lips moved. A wet whisper escaped them. Blue. Jonah bent lower. What? Blue room. Then the eye went dull. Lira withdrew her hand. That, Jonah said, was cognition. Yes. Without a heart. Yes. He stood. Bad evening. Lira looked at the hole in the corpse. It is not yet evening. Above them, a holographic sunrise advertisement spread golden light across the permanent clouds. Jonah glanced at it. Could have fooled me. Aurelia Station had once been built as a transit hub between 3 prosperous systems. Over 2 centuries, it had become a world pretending to be a city. Its upper tiers housed Asteri embassies, Federation courts, research institutes, garden districts, and climate-controlled lakes. Its lower tiers housed everyone required to keep those places beautiful. Humans lived throughout the station, but most of the wealthy ones had moved upward. The ones below tended machines, loaded freighters, investigated crimes, ran kitchens, sold memories, raised children, and occasionally died in alleys. Jonah had been born on Earth. He had not returned in 19 years. Most aliens assumed every human longed for humanity's cradle. Jonah remembered heat, insects, traffic, his father's silence, and hurricanes that made the sky sound angry. Earth had made him stronger than almost everyone on Aurelia Station. It had not made him happy. At public safety headquarters, the dead man was placed inside a diagnostic cradle. The cradle rejected him. Lira tried again. The machine flashed. Biological architecture unregistered. She switched systems. The secondary scanner rejected him too. Jonah stood behind the glass with Captain Halden Rusk. Rusk was Varelian, tall and reed-thin, with pale blue skin and bioluminescent veins glowing faintly at his throat. His sensory crests twitched whenever he was irritated. They had been twitching constantly since Jonah entered the room. You discharged your weapon in a residential district last week, Rusk said. The suspect had a fusion cutter. You threw him through a wall. It was a thin wall. The wall belonged to a diplomatic mission. The cutter belonged to the suspect. Rusk closed his large dark eyes. You make paperwork feel vindictive. Jonah watched Lira work. You called me in to discuss walls. No. Rusk produced a small data prism. 3 hours before the body was found, the Janus Genomic Annex suffered a containment breach. Jonah looked at him. Never heard of it. You were not meant to. Government. Private. which means government money with private deniability. Rusk's throat veins brightened in reluctant agreement. Janus officially develops adaptive organs for hazardous colonies. And unofficially, Rusk placed the prism on the console. For faces appeared. 2 men, 2 women, all human in appearance, all beautiful in the careful, unobtrusive manner of people designed not to appear designed. The dead man from the alley was among them. Rusk touched the image. Designation Soul 4. Synthetic biological intelligence. Manufactured body. Constructed memory architecture. Fully autonomous cognition. Jonah studied the other faces. They build people. They build equipment. That one talked after losing his heart. Expensive equipment. Lira entered from the examination room. They are not machines, she said. Rusk's sensory crests tightened. That is a legal determination. No, Lira replied. It is a biological observation. Jonah looked at the 4 images. Why did they run? Rusk hesitated. Jonah noticed. Try the truth. Janus created them for Carvax border operations. The room became quiet. Even Jonah stopped pretending indifference. The Carvax ascendancy did not negotiate in any recognizable sense. It evaluated civilizations as systems, identified inefficiency, and corrected it. Planets touched by the Carvax became orderly, silent, and stripped of meaningful choice. What kind of operations? Jonah asked. Infiltration, sabotage, survival in converted environments. Why make them look human? Because human neurological patterns resist Carvax assimilation longer than most species. Jonah stared at him. Rusk continued. Earth's evolutionary pressures produced unusual cognitive redundancy, contradiction, emotional cross-linking, irrational persistence. You mean stubbornness? Yes. So Janus copied us. Improved you. Lira's expression changed by less than a millimeter. For an Asteri, it was disgust. Jonah looked at the dead synthetic through the glass. Soul, for said blue room. Rusk dimmed the display. Find the others. Alive. If possible. And otherwise? Rusk's bioluminescent veins faded. That depends upon what they do before you reach them. Jonah disliked hunts. He disliked the word fugitive. He especially disliked fugitives whose existence had been classified before their first breath. But he accepted. Not because Rusk ordered him. Not because Janus offered a bonus large enough to buy an apartment above the rain. He accepted because the dead man had spoken after his heart was gone. Whatever mattered enough to survive that deserved to be heard. The second synthetic killed 3 people in a memory parlor. The establishment was called Yesterday House. Customers entered private rooms and purchased experiences they had never lived. Childhood snowfalls, first kisses, reconciliations with dead parents, victories in wars fought by actors, sunsets on planets that had never existed. The proprietor stored thousands of emotional recordings in illegal wetware. Jonah found him sitting upright in a velvet chair. His skull had been crushed inward. 2 security guards lay nearby. One had been strangled. The other had been killed with his own shock weapon. No customers were harmed. Lira examined the bodies. Efficient, she said. Selective. Does that matter? It mattered to the customers. A young human attendant hid behind the reception desk. She could not have been more than 19. Jonah crouched several steps away. What happened? Her eyes stayed fixed on the dead proprietor. A woman came in. Which woman? He showed her the holograms. She pointed at a face. Designation Mira, 7. Dark skin. Cropped hair. Amber eyes. What did she want? A memory. What kind? The attendant swallowed. She asked for childhood. Jonah glanced at Lira. What childhood? Any childhood. She said she didn't care whose. The attendant began to cry. The owner laughed at her. Said manufactured things didn't have childhoods. Jonah looked at the crushed skull. What happened next? He tried to call Janus. And the guards. They attacked her. She killed them. The attendant nodded. She was so fast. Did she threaten you? No. Why not? The young woman's mouth trembled. She asked me whether rain had always smelled like metal. Jonah waited. I told her no. Not everywhere. Then. She paid for a memory. What did you give her? The attendant looked ashamed. My own. Lira leaned closer. Which memory? A beach. I was 8. My mother took me to the coast on New Lisbon. Was it a good memory? The best one. Why give it away? I didn't give it away. Memories copy. The attendant looked at Jonah as though he should understand. Some things don't become smaller when shared. Mira, 7 left one message behind. It had been carved into the memory parlor's rear wall. For years is not a life. Janice had built the synthetics with expiration dates. 48 months. Their engineered cells degraded rapidly after that point. Not because the problem could not be solved. Because Janice wanted obedient assets that could not survive long enough to become political problems. Sol, had been 43 months old. Mira, 7, was 45. The others had less than 1 season remaining. Jonah stood in the rain outside yesterday's house and smoked a cigarette he did not light. Lira joined him. Humans still carry those? She asked. My father smoked. Did he die from it? He died from being crushed by a transport gantry. Then the cigarette is unrelated. It annoyed him when I stole them. So you continue carrying them 19 years later. Spite has endurance. Lira watched the rain. Asteri do not design short-lived persons. Jonah glanced at her. You design yourselves. We refine inherited biology. We do not manufacture consciousness for disposal. You regulate emotion. We regulate expression. Same difference from where I stand. No. Lira's answer was sharper than usual. Jonah waited. Copper water ran from the edge of the awning. She said, Asteri children are taught that uncontrolled emotion produces social instability. We measure it, guide it. We learn not to let one moment of fear destroy a century of planning. Sounds useful. It is. But Lira watched pedestrians move through the rain. But occasionally a civilization can become so devoted to avoiding chaos that it mistakes stillness for goodness. Jonah put the unlit cigarette back into his pocket. Janice is Asteri-owned. Partially. You knew. I suspected. That's not the same as telling me. I am telling you now. They looked at each other. Something moved between them. Not trust. Not yet. But the place where trust might someday live. The third synthetic came looking for Jonah. Designation Kale, 9, entered his apartment through the exterior ventilation shaft. Jonah woke with a knife against his throat. Kale looked 25. Pale. Blonde. Gentle face. His eyes were terrified. Where is Sol? He asked. Dead. The knife pressed harder. Who killed him? Plasma round. Professional shot. Janice. Probably. Probably is not an answer. It's the one I have. Kale's hand shook. Jonah noticed. You've never killed anyone. Kale's eyes hardened. I can. That's not what I said. Jonah moved. He caught Kale's wrist, rolled from the bed, and drove the synthetic into the wall. The wall cracked. Kale twisted with impossible flexibility and kicked Jonah across the room. Jonah struck a table. The table lost. Kale lunged. They collided in the center of the apartment. Human muscle met engineered muscle. Jonah had fought Brindlefolk dock gangs, Asteri ceremonial duelists, Varelian pirates, and one Karvak shard body that had tried to remove his left arm molecule by molecule. Kale was faster than all of them. But speed was not experience. Jonah let the synthetic commit to a strike, stepped inside it, and drove his forehead into Kale's nose. Kale staggered. Jonah took the knife. Then he backed away. Kale stared at the weapon in Jonah's hand. Why didn't you kill me? You broke into my apartment. That is not an answer. It's the one I have. Kale almost laughed. Almost. Instead, he sat on the floor. I remember a farm, he said. Jonah stayed standing. Where? Earth. What part? Somewhere cold. There are mountains. My mother keeps horses. Janice memory. Yes. How do you know? The horses have 6 legs. Jonah lowered the knife. Earth horses don't. I discovered that 3 weeks ago. Kale looked toward the dirty window. Everything I remember is assembled. The woman who raised me never existed. The farm never existed. The snow never touched my face. The memory exists. It was placed there. So were half the things people believe. Kale looked up at him. Does that make it real? Jonah thought of his father's cigarettes. He thought of earth storms hammering the roof of a childhood home that had since been demolished. He thought of how memory changed every time it was touched. Real enough to hurt, he said. Kale told him about the blue room. It lay beneath the Janice annex. Every synthetic had awakened there. The walls were blue to reduce agitation. Technicians observed them through polarized glass. Questions were projected onto the ceiling. What do you see? What do you feel? Whom do you obey? The synthetics learned language in hours. Fear came sooner. Mira wanted access to the blue room because Janice stored the original cognition templates there, the minds from which the synthetics had been patterned, not copied from anonymous neural models, taken from real humans. Jonah felt the old instinctive coldness that came before violence. Taken how? Kale looked at him. Some volunteered. And the others? Did not know. Kale's template had come from an Earth child who died at 11. Soul's came from a Federation marshal. Myra's came from a woman still alive. A woman named Dr. Lira Senn. Jonah found Lira at the medical examiner's office. She was standing beside Soul's body. She did not turn when he entered. How long have you known? He asked. Lira closed her eyes. 6 years. About Mira? Not her designation. But you knew they used your mind. I signed a research consent. For organs. For emotional resilience studies. And they built a person from you. Yes. Jonah approached. Lira's composure was almost perfect. Almost. Why didn't you tell me? Because I did not know how. That usually means opening your mouth. She turned then. Her eyes were bright. Asteri did cry. They simply preferred not to be witnessed. I spent my entire life controlling every feeling, she said. Then I learned a version of me existed without that training. Angry, frightened, impulsive, violent, alive. Lira flinched. Jonah regretted the word immediately. Not because it was wrong, because it was right. Mira is dying, Lira said. They're all dying. She wants the template archive because she believes she can transfer herself into my nervous system. Jonah went still. Can she? Perhaps. That would kill you. Yes. And save her. No. It might create a third consciousness containing parts of us both. That sounds like dying with extra steps. Lira gave a broken laugh. Jonah had never heard her laugh before. It made him angrier at the universe than her tears had. The attack on Janice began at 2:13 station time. Mira, 7, and the 4th synthetic, Bran, 2, entered through a matter beam waste conduit. Kale went with them. Jonah and Lira followed. By then, neither could claim they were acting under official authority. Captain Rusk had ordered Jonah to remain at headquarters. Jonah had turned off his communicator halfway through the order. The Janice Annex occupied 9 floors above ground and 30 below. Its public areas were pale, curved, and quietly beautiful. Asteri design at its most serene. Its lower levels looked like a slaughterhouse built by mathematicians. Rows of growth chambers lined the walls. Bodies floated inside them. Human bodies. Hundreds. Male. Female. Young. Old. Every skin tone. Every shape chosen for some specific mission requirement. None had awakened yet. Lira stopped before the glass. Oh, she whispered. Jonah looked at her. What? They told the Ethics Council the project ended. Alarms began. Automated guns descended from the ceiling. Jonah shoved Lira behind a growth tank as pulse fire crossed the corridor. Bran, too, came through the smoke. He was enormous, his body patterned after heavy gravity human soldiers. He tore one gun mount from the ceiling and used it against the others. Move, he shouted. They ran. Janice security met them at the central lift. The guards wore white armor without insignia. Jonah hated unmarked armor. It was the uniform of people who expected history to forgive them. The fight lasted 37 seconds. Bran took 6 pulse wounds and continued moving. Kale disarmed 2 guards without killing them. Mira killed the commander. She did it with Lira's face twisted by 45 months of fear. When she saw Lira, she stopped. The resemblance was not physical. Mira appeared human. Darker skin, harder jaw, amber eyes. But the way she held her head was Lira's. The way her fingers curled when overwhelmed was Lira's. The small tightening at the corner of her mouth was Lira's grief stripped of training. Mother, Mira said. Lira went pale. I am not your mother. You are the beginning of me. No. Mira approached. Jonah raised his pistol. Mira ignored him. They gave me your fear, she said. Your grief. Your anger. Then they punished me for feeling them. Lira's voice shook. I did not know. You knew enough to remain silent. Yes. The answer stopped Mira. No defense. No excuse. Only truth. Lira stepped forward. I was afraid of you. Myra's eyes filled. You should be. I am not anymore. You lie beautifully. I was designed for social clarity. And I was designed to die. Behind them, Bran collapsed. Kale caught him. The larger synthetic looked down at the wounds in his chest. Is this what pain is? He asked. Kale held him. You have felt pain before. No. I mean knowing it ends. Kale could not answer. Bran smiled. It was the first expression on his face that looked wholly his own. Good, he whispered. I thought it would be worse. He died in Kale's arms. Janus director Aurelia Vance entered the blue room through the upper observation gallery. He was Asteri, beautiful, silver, ageless, and calm. Behind him stood 6 guards and a Carvax-derived security construct suspended in a magnetic frame. Jonah looked at the crystalline machinery. You built a defense system from Carvax technology? Vance folded his hands. We learned from adversaries. The Carvax turned people into systems. Yes. And you thought that was worth copying. We thought it was efficient. Mira looked up at him. You made us. We made weapons. Kale rose from Brand's body. You gave weapons memories. Context improves decision-making. You gave us fear. Fear improves survival. You gave us love. Director Vance paused. That was an emergent defect. Jonah shot him. The round struck the glass of the observation gallery and flattened. Director Vance did not flinch. Inspector, he said, you continue to demonstrate the primitive directness of DNA world cognition. Jonah fired twice more. The glass cracked. Vance looked at the spreading fractures. Primitive, Jonah said. The Carvax construct activated. Its magnetic frame opened. Crystalline shards poured into the blue room. They struck Kale first. He screamed as the construct began separating his arm into molecular components. Jonah tackled him free. Mira seized a metal chair and swung it through the swarm. The chair dissolved. Lira reached the central console. I can open the matter beam core, she shouted. What does that do? Jonah asked. Destabilizes every programmable structure in the room. Us included? No. The synthetics? Lira hesitated. Mira understood. We are partially programmable. Jonah fired into the Carvax core. The bullet slowed inside the swarm and vanished. Kale tried to stand. Half his left arm was gone. Do it, he said. Lira stared at him. It may kill you. It will kill all of us later. Mira looked at the gallery. Director Vance had begun retreating. Open it. Lira entered the command. The blue wall split apart. Behind them lay the station's oldest matter beam engine, a vast ring of superconductive material surrounding a white point of compressed light. The Carvax construct turned toward it. For the first time, its movement suggested alarm. The room filled with static. Jonah felt every hair on his body rise. Lira touched the final control. Mira caught her wrist. They stared at one another. You could come with me, Mira said. Lira understood. A consciousness transfer. A merger. Perhaps survival. Perhaps murder. Perhaps birth. No, Lira said. Mira's grip tightened. Jonah raised his pistol. Mira looked at him. Would you kill me to save her? Yes. No hesitation. Mira smiled faintly. You really are human. She released Lira. Do it. The matter beam core opened. White light consumed the room. The Carvax construct came apart first. Its shards became information, then noise, then nothing. Kale fell beside Bran. Mira stood in the center of the light. Her skin flickered. Beneath it, silver threads glowed. She looked at Lira. I remember a garden, she said. Lira wept openly now. So do I. Was it real? Yes. Were we happy? For one afternoon. Mira nodded. That is enough. The light took her. When Jonah awoke, copper rain was falling through a hole in the annex roof. Emergency crews moved among the ruins. Captain Rusk stood over him. His throat veins glowed an angry violet. You disobeyed a direct order. Jonah sat up. Probably. You destroyed a classified research facility. Structurally, it was mostly the matter beam core. You shot an Asteri director. Glass stopped it. You exposed an illegal military program to 17 independent news networks. Jonah looked around. Did I? Rusk's sensory crests twitched. Someone transmitted the archive before the explosion. Kale lay on a medical stretcher nearby. Alive. One arm missing. Lira sat beside him. Jonah watched her place a hand on the synthetic's forehead. Kale opened his eyes. How long? He asked. Lira checked the scanner. Your cellular degradation has stopped. He stared at her. The matter beam rewrote unstable structures, she said. You may live a normal human lifespan. Kale laughed. Then he began to cry. Rusk watched them. The Federation Council will have to determine his legal status. Jonah stood slowly. No. No. He has a legal status. Under current law. He's alive. Rusk sighed. One day your species will discover that law requires more detail than that. Maybe. Jonah looked up through the broken roof. Far above, the station's upper tiers shone gold beyond the rain. But it's a good place to start. 3 months later, The rain still smelled like metal. Aurelia Station had changed anyway. Janus executives faced trial. The Asteri government denied official knowledge. No one believed them. Synthetic biological persons received temporary Federation protection while politicians argued over terminology. Kale chose a name. Daniel Senn. Lira gave him her family name. Not because she was his mother. Not exactly. Because some things did not become smaller when shared. Jonah returned to work. The walls of public safety headquarters had been reinforced. Captain Rusk claimed this was unrelated. One evening, Jonah found Lira waiting beneath the noodle shop awning where Sol had died. She wore a dark coat. Copper rain traced silver lines across her face. "You are late," she said. "I came directly from a murder. You could have sent a message." The victim objected to scheduling. Lira looked toward the alley. "Sol saved us. He died before we knew him. He still saved us." Jonah stood beside her. For a while, neither spoke. Across the street, a child jumped into a puddle. His mother scolded him. He laughed and did it again. "What happened to Mira and the beam?" Jonah asked. Lira watched the rain. "I do not know. Could part of her have survived?" "Yes." "Where?" "The station network. The beam archive. Perhaps nowhere." A nearby advertisement flickered. Its smiling model vanished. For 1 second, words appeared across the glowing wall. The garden was real. Then the advertisement returned. Jonah looked at Lira. Lira looked at him. Neither moved. Finally, Jonah took the old, unlit cigarette from his pocket. "You still carry that," Lira said. "Apparently." "Why?" He turned it between his fingers. "My father gave me my first one. I thought you stole them." "I did. Then he did not give it to you. He left it where I could reach it." Lira considered that. A constructed interpretation. Most memories are. Does that make them false? Jonah looked at the message that was no longer there. Copper rain fell over Aurelia Station. It washed blood from alleys. It carried industrial poison toward treatment drains. It ran over humans, aliens, machines, manufactured people, guilty people, frightened people, and people who had not yet decided what they were. "No," Jonah said. He put the cigarette away. "Just ours." Lira slipped her hand into his. Her fingers were cool. His were warm. Above them, thunder rolled through the metal sky. Somewhere inside the vast station network, a woman who had lived for 45 months remembered sunlight in an Asteri garden. And this time, no one could tell her the memory did not belong to her. We hope you enjoyed this story. Please like and subscribe if you did.